One. And whoops, wrong button. And we are recording with Herr Kunstler,
Yes.
head of the Panzerkriegen and grandson of Klaus Schwab. Mr. Kunstler, please introduce yourself.
As if.
Yeah, I know. Please introduce yourself to all the new listeners.
I am James Howard Kunstler, otherwise known as Jim Kunstler, the author of about 20 books, including The Long Emergency, The Geography of Nowhere, the World Made by Hand novels, and many other tomes. And I also the blogger at Clusterfuck Nation every Monday and every Friday, and not the days in between, in the morning by 10 o'clock Eastern time.
I think that we were finishing up the last episode. I said something like, if you break like 1 million views, I'll buy you a watch, and something along the line, something stupid.
Man, I got a perfectly good $25.
Well, you were asking about a watch last time. This was on you, not me. Don't
asking about your watch.
No, you were saying how I have to buy you a watch. I don't know how we got into it.
I don't remember. I like this watch. This $25 watch has been going for 2 years. It lights up. It doesn't tell you any more confusing shit about where you're at. And
well, that's all I need, man. I don't want to buy you a watch, but so
fuck that shit.
Yeah. So I have one episode with Dr. Malone back in January that got up to like 700,000 views. And behind that, an average, like a really good video for me is like 10,000 views. Wow. And most of them are like maybe 500. Your first episode right now is sitting at like 100,000 views, and your second one is sitting at like 90. So now I'm kind of scared because I'm like, that's 190 combined. I'm like, this is you're not I mean, I'm happy, but I'm also like, he's not actually supposed. I said 1 million because it was absurd, and now I'm like, well, fuck, you're batting like 9,000% over the average. So
yeah, me and Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, I know, right? So I wanted to ask you, because we've talked about peak oil, the end of suburbia, kind of the collapse, the maybe not even just the American empire, but like the empire of man buckling under its own weight. What are because, and I said this yesterday on a podcast, I have to stay like somewhat aware of my insobriety when it comes to conspiracies, because I'm a sucker for them. Like I think there's a lot of conspiracies and a lot of things, but I'll give time of day to anything. I'll be like, tell me about like the monsters on the moon. So that being said, am I seeing patterns where they are not, or is there an absurd, not that you know the answer, is there an absurdly frequent number of food processing plants burning down right now? And for all future listeners, today's Monday, May 9th, 2022.
I don't know, man. I've seen those stories, of course, and I've been following the thread, and it's a little peculiar for sure. I don't know much more about it than you do, but I would say this, that we human beings are wired for pattern recognition, and we kind of do it automatically. Some of us are more afflicted with a kind of obsessional version of that than other people. But there are things going on in the world, that there are patterns that are out there in the world that are kind of disturbing. And I for years used to proclaim on my blog that I was allergic to conspiracy theories. Of course, that's all been greatly confused by the fact that the mainstream media pimps out there have chosen the phrase conspiracy theory as their means for trying to kick out any idea they don't like out of the arena. So that further confuses the whole idea that pattern recognition has any value at all. But that, of course, is very tied into the mind fuckery that we're now being subjected to, and it's become a very complex situation. I would say, pattern recognition is important, and if it's worth talking about, but you got to be a little bit careful of making a fool of yourself about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one form of pattern recognition would be recognizing the pattern that whenever they say this is disinformation,
absolutely
it tends to mean that the story is true. And it's
that's now a flag that goes up that absolutely tells you that whatever they're against is either what they're doing themselves or is actually true.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
It's
mean, like,
disgusting. It's just, we've now entered just such an era of collective mental confusion that it's hard to see us really getting out of this. I'm not sure what it's going to take. It's going to
yeah,
take some kind of leadership. I hope it's not somebody who is, one of your classic historic savior types.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, it would just be nice if we had a generation of people who are not out of their fucking minds.
yeah. Yeah. It's
Not to put too fine a point on it.
no, I don't. I'm with you 100%. We're absolutely nuts. It's yeah. It's these situations are dangerous because as a society or a nation slips, it's kind of like foreplay. It's a lubrication for someone that maybe wouldn't naturally arise. A Hitler. Sometimes you get a hero. Sometimes a hero steps up to the plate. George
That's
Washington,
right.
Abe Lincoln, JFK. They
Well,
navigate through the waters of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
go back
Sometimes,
to an even earlier edition of, savior figures. And, one of the more interesting ones to me, of course, is Napoleon Bonaparte,
sure.
who, he comes along a few years after the Reign of Terror, which was promulgated by exactly the kind of Jacobin maniacs who we're now seeing in the woke progressives of the Party of Chaos, otherwise known as the Democratic Party. And they tear France apart. They're trying to restructure the whole culture in ways that are deeply disturbing to the French people, like changing the number of the days of the week
Yeah, the
from
calendar.
7 to 10 and the calendar, and all kinds of stuff. And and then they killed 18,000 people, in the year that they were in power, from 1793 to 1794. And it really traumatized France. And they go through a period of just kind of drifts for a few years, and then this young artillery officer is called to France to to just to be available, because he seems to have distinguished himself in the south of France in some battles. And he meets a mob on the street, and he serves up what they call a
A
whiff of
whiff of
grape
grape
shot.
shot.
A whiff of grape shot, which has a tranquilizing effect on the mob. And everybody turns to him at that magic moment in history and says, he's the guy. He's the one. I think he's like 26 years old.
Yeah.
Right. And he turns to himself and says, yeah, I guess I am
I
the
guess I
one.
fucking am.
Because he had a kind of unusual personality himself, very
Yeah.
self-assured and very, very intelligent.
Yeah.
They said that Bonaparte used to actually write with both hands. He would write separate letters with both hands at the same time at his desk, which is a pretty astounding feat if you think about it. But he was actually a marvelous leader for a few years. He concocted a legal code that is still used in France, and did performed some miracles of early industrial engineering that brought France into the modern age in many ways, roadways and bridges and things like that. And of course, then he, got a little too full of himself and decided to embark on foreign wars, and he his reputation kind of went up in a vapor.
It does seem to be that we're serving up that, but then I also look at, like, I don't know, it's in terms of like a generation stepping up. I now know more people, and not because I've gone to school in rural areas. A lot of my family's in rural areas. I've spent most of my life in some sort of urban center. So I've always had like a distinction of people I know who it's like, these are my friends that like take the subway to work. And then like, these are my friends that like, they keep a shotgun in the truck in case they see a partridge. And it's like, so like, it's not too surprising when you see like one half of them just kind of living that general blue collar life. But I've seen more people from the quote unquote like urban set of friends I've had slowly becoming moving out of cities, learning to, I mean, guys that never in a million years now are like showing me pictures of like the gardens they're setting up, building their own wells, how to chop firewood, how to become self-sufficient, pulling kids out of public schools, homeschooling them. I've never seen more of a rise in these things that it sounds like something your grandpa would say. Back in, we always made sure we had enough food at home. We didn't depend on the government. But now I'm seeing like fellow millennial shitbags actually sort of going and, living in God's country and trying to become some sort of like a sustainable system within their own homestead. I mean, from like composting to recycling to just, saving all this shit for this is for kindling fire. This is for if you ever have to collect rainwater. And it's on one point, it is a little inspiring. It doesn't seem like we're waiting on some savior to come in, but there actually does seem to be some sort of generational groundswell. I mean, most people listening to this will recognize the name Tucker Max. Tucker Max was like a famous name when I was in college, 2009 to 2013 ish. He was like the bro of all bros. He was the dude that he wrote a book called I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. Everyone knew about him. It was just his sexcapades, all the pussy, all the frat parties, all to an exaggerated extent. It was this weird mythical character.
Like a generational Superman.
Yeah, yeah, truly like a new like Belushi or something. And like, but he has since grown, and I've interviewed him to he now has like several kids, is in a loving relationship, talks about all the therapy he's done, the introspection he's used with psychedelics, and he is out living on like his own parcel of land. He's using funds from his like books and things. He's building his own like schools, like literally like looks like some Amish shit. And he's the most like beautifully evolved person that if you had to a comical degree said, what do you think Tucker Max will be in 10 years? That'd be like looking at Donald Trump right now and saying like, I think by 2030 he'll be a yogi with his own yoga retreat. Like, you'd be like, all right, dude, like, yeah, huh? And I'll be 7 feet tall, black, and have 3 NBA championships. But that's what he's become. And I can only imagine, or I can only conclude that it's not all just personal growth. The system has to become so sick and poison that it almost forces you to become that. Like, there are always the guys that are like, I just want to go live on the land, versus a system that is so toxic and repulsive of just, if you don't chop your balls off by age 5, you're a bigot. It forces people to sort of go out and become the opposite of that. And that might be the generational, I guess, savior, as opposed to a single Napoleon.
Well, when you're in a villainous system that is manifestly evil, and that's, every day is emanating some kind of new, ridiculous, implausible evil, it ought to force you to grow up fast, and you can call that evolving, but in prior times it was probably just known as growing up,
Maturing.
And let's remember that each of us, in the larger sense, is on a hero's journey. If we're fortunate, if we could also be on a fool's errand. But the fortunate among us recognize that, you have a duty to pay respect to the hero's journey that is before you, just by dint of being here in reality on the planet Earth, and to take it seriously. And of course, the older you get, and especially the more responsibilities you acquire, the more you're likely to take that seriously. I don't really consort that much with your generation. For the last couple of years, I've consorted very little with any generation. But, there have got to be some people in there who have manned up and, picked up the baton and started to run with it. And I can also well understand why people would perceive that they're living in a disorderly world now, and that if they're going to provide any kind of dignified authority to themselves, even, they may have to self-provide it. You have to become the figure, the person that you would want to direct your life and direct your choices and activities.
To kind of go completely out the left field, on the note of things being labeled disinformation tend to be true. The Hunter Biden laptop, did COVID come from a lab? I mean, you can see how like the censorship algorithms haven't quite caught up with the news, like the US restricting the use of the J&J vaccine because of blood clots, that still gets labeled as like disinformation despite being
Amazing.
like, announced by the CDC. But
Amazing.
things like that, it can only lead to the conclusion that whatever is called disinformation has to be true. And the more they fight against it, the truer it has to be. What are your thoughts on the widespread censorship of 2000 Mules?
Oh, well,
I haven't seen
uh,
it yet, full disclosure.
I saw it last night, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
really?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a, sensationally smashing, venture into truth telling, but it's good enough. And they do have these two characters from, I forget the name of the organization, Rock the Vote, or not Rock the Vote, but it's some vote organization that just did a fantastic job of collecting an immense amount of data and then putting it in a form that people could easily understand, to see exactly how much trafficking there was in fake ballots, or just in ballots, many of them fake, and to see how it worked, and how easily punked the whole country was. And it's also very hard to understand how this has not attracted the attention of any adjudicators. It's really an amazing thing. The more we hear about disinformation, the more confused generally the country becomes, and it's just very, very unhealthy. And of course, we're living with the consequence of all that, which is a national leader who is simply not there. He's a ghost in the machine, and it's not working out very well for us. And the fact that there's a whole faction of people who are cheerleading for uh, this exercise in fakery is really appalling. We should be, it should really galvanize those of us who stand in opposition to this fake regime. I give Dinesh D'Souza a great deal of credit for going through with this, and putting it all together and putting it out there. I don't know what to make exactly of this fantastic censorship. I actually even had trouble logging in on his official 2000 Mules website. It wouldn't accept my username, and it basically froze up. And I thought, well, maybe he's being hacked, or maybe they just, don't have an adequate system, that they just don't have the platform doesn't work or something. I ended up getting a link for, some free window on Rumble that was showing it. And I booted it from my computer to the boob tube, and I watched it with my girlfriend. So yeah, it's mostly a lot of video footage of a bunch of balloting mules who are just dumping ballots into those ballot box things. What do they call those things? Those collection boxes?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, the whole thing's appalling. And there are a lot of things they didn't account for in the movie. They didn't even talk about, probably because they thought their best case was the mules, because there was just so much documentary evidence about what happened. But they didn't touch the Dominion voting machine mischief, whatever that was. And they really didn't touch the organizations that marshaled all of this activity, the nonprofits, the NGOs that like Mark Zuckerberg's Citizens, whatever network it was, that ended up pouring $400,000 into the management of various district elections that replaced the regular election workers with Democratic Party functionaries. Just, that in itself is an appalling action. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's been so much revelation of bad behavior on the part of the party of chaos that they just seem to consistently survive. Part of that seems to be that the court system is failing. That the judges are failing. That they won't adjudicate actual problems that need to be adjudicated. So
Are they failing, or is this intentional? Because there's just too much to go to. It's giving them too much credit to like bang our heads and go, how come the FBI is not looking into this? How come the NSA isn't using all that surveillance capability? Don't they know that? Yeah.
Well, my guess is that you're seeing the accumulation of so much criminal activity by the party of chaos that they're now totally invested in covering their tracks.
You have to be.
And everybody who's connected with them is in on it in one way or another, or helping them out, or that seems to be the case. What's more puzzling is the weakness of the opposition. The fact that people like Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are such weak sisters that they can't even mount an opposition to this mindfuckery.
Again, I think even that, though, I think that's just uniparty. I think
that's a cliche. Everybody says that. And maybe there's quite a bit of truth to that, but it's not good enough of an explanation. What exactly is this vacuum of leadership? Getting back to France in the 1700s, you saw that after the Reign of Terror. You saw this amazing vacuum of leadership. And what happens is that a civilization or society just becomes exhausted with the bullshit that they get, that runs them around. And then they become kind of impotent for a while, and they're unable to act. And so you see an opposition, except for a few exceptions, some of the very brave COVID-19 doctors who are in opposition to the vaccines and really all the activity of public health and medicine. And there's very few of them, compared to the number of doctors that there are in this country who are just marching around following really homicidal instructions. And I personally, I seem to be a hopeless optimist. I'm not optimistically hopeless, but I seem to be hopelessly optimistic. And I think that there's going to be tremendous, ferocious blowback to this. And when it comes, it's gonna be really something to see. I don't know. What do you think about that?
In terms of being hopelessly optimistic?
No, in terms of
well, I was gonna say
an eventual reaction.
I was gonna say, and I'll get to that. I was gonna say an agreement, though. I think you have to be, and it doesn't mean be so optimistic that you are blind to meaningful change and repercussions, but it's almost like it's not being so optimistic that you're on the ground going, yeah, just fire the rocket at the moon. We'll probably get there. Because it's like, well, no, let's work out the kinks. I look at it more as like
do the math.
I look at it more as like you're on Apollo 13. And it's like we have to stay optimistic because like we got to be aware of like the depleting oxygen supply and the limited fuel and power. But I mean, why be I think we're gonna burn up in the atmosphere. See, I told you so. We're burning alive. Like there's no what Elon Musk said on his first Joe Rogan podcast. I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right, because why get out of bed? So on that note, I do agree with you. You have to be. There's no, I told you there's a new world order and we're all fucked. Congrats. But in terms of blowback, yeah, I think it's coming. And when we think about how come, so many people aren't more concerned about a stolen, fortified election or these homicidal COVID policies, I think, and you got to be careful because you can't just write everything off as censorship, because then that becomes a blank check that you use to justify everything. But censorship isn't just you can't access this website or this video gets taken down. It also means that you aren't seeing the true mass aggregate response to things, either because they are being shadow banned and or because you can just take 100 people that are for one thing and then just have 1,000 bots that are against it. So you're not actually seeing a diminishing of the people that are for X. It just seems like there's 10 times more for Y. I say that to say we're not, I don't think we're seeing the accurate number of like followers on Twitter or subscribers on YouTube or comments on like, yeah, that was bullshit. The election was stolen. You're seeing those things shadow banned, and then you're seeing the opposing voice amplified. You don't see the real. The analogy I always use is you're all in, a football stadium, and whoever your team scores, you see everyone cheering, everyone wearing the same uniform as you, versus the panopticon, that prison system where there's like a lighthouse type structure in the center and there's a big circle around it, and the guy in the center, through like one-way mirrors, he can look around and see inside every cell. But if you're inside a cell, you can't see left, right, above, below, and the really good ones are lined up so you can't even see across, you just see the tower. So you're always under observation. If that guy said, hey, everyone that agrees with today's lunch, give me a thumbs up, everyone might give a thumbs up, but you're looking at it going thumbs up, and the panopticon guy pipes into your cell, you're the only one giving a thumbs up. You have no way of knowing that it's actually you and 10,000 guys. It's going, hey, Tommy, you look like such a fucking idiot. You're the only one giving thumbs up. I just want to tell you that. Well, then that changes me to go, oh, okay, maybe I say thumbs up and I say, fuck you. But ultimately, I'm like, what does it matter? There's 9,999 against me.
It also shows how, how confused and mindfucked you end up being.
Yes. So you have to factor that in. And again, you can't just use that as a blank check. I just can't see everyone else. They all agree with me, because that's delusion in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is such a widespread opposition to the current regime, the raping of the southern border, the runaway inflation, the covering up of the harmful effects of the vaccines, the lack of using or the need to abolish Section 230, the Disinformation Governance Board, the new Department of Environmental Justice, our involvement with seemingly just rattling Ukraine and Russia to get this thing bigger.
All that. That's a great laundry list of everything that's going wrong in this country.
I think that there's probably such a massive rejection of this, but we're in the digital panopticon. You only see, I come on here with you, and you and I are, for the most part, right, probably agreeing on everything. So we can pat each other's back. The people that watch this podcast, or there's confirmation bias, they probably like this podcast. We're not seeing I don't know what the person in the apartments next to me are doing, or the guy at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe and no one wants to talk about it just because in general things are so divisive. But I mean, imagine if you could really just go get a truthful answer out of everyone you talk to. They'd probably be like, yeah, fuck this, dude. My groceries have doubled. Or like, what do you mean censorship? I can't talk about this, that, or the other. Like, what if I don't want the vaccine? I think the rejection of the current regime is probably overwhelming, but like you only need censorship. It's like that quote, if the situation was hopeless, their propaganda wouldn't be necessary. I think it's probably so overwhelmingly everyone is against this shit. There are some psychopaths that are like, this is great, govern me harder. But I think there's probably an ocean of opposition. The only reason you'd need censorship is to paint it all over and go, there's just a couple pockets.
So, I suppose you're right, but it is amazing that this regime is getting away with it. And, just to see the everyday behavior of people who, in the captured institutional part of America that includes, the crazies in education, both, one K through 12 and secondary, and higher ed, the crazies in the news business. There can be really no other explanation than that these people are mentally captured, and that we're undergoing what Dr. Desmet in the University of Ghent calls a mass formation.
Yeah.
And a mass formation psychosis, and it has made people stupid and crazy. There's also this crisis of authority that has been troubling me for years and years, that you get this insane behavior on the campuses.
Yeah.
And what's the one thing that you haven't heard for all the years that this has been going on? It's, where are the deans and the presidents? Where are these people? Who is the maniac in charge of the sports division of the University of Pennsylvania, who allowed this hulking
Sandusky.
brute, this, whatever he was, 6'3" hulking brute, compete against a bunch of women in
Oh,
swimming? You know,
yeah.
who who are these presidents and deans who allow this craziness? What is making these school board members in places like suburban Virginia, and what has possibly converted them into crazed Bolsheviks? It's just, is there nobody who has anything to say about it? It's
I
it's a stunning thing. There's no authority. Authority has completely failed in this country, and unfortunately, if you're looking for a restoration of authority, which we need, there's an excellent chance that you're going to go, the pendulum will swing too far to the other side.
yeah.
And we'll have some kind of just furious reaction.
Yeah. And that is the sort of, that was going to say, where are these people? I think they're either spineless populists or they are complicit. But even then, it's because you can get away with it when things, for the most part, are all right, and they have been for decades, more than all right. I mean, air
Yeah.
conditioning, reasonable gas, cheap electronics, cheap groceries. There's no car bombs going off. Like, you can kind of, who cares if that avowed Marxist is the new dean? Dude, shut up, dude. We're going to college next year. It's just, it's in the periphery. You don't really give. Oh, dude, Tom Brady, third Super Bowl in 4 years. Wow, look at it go. Yeah, there's Iraq. There's, they're lying about. Yeah, but it has to get to this boiling point, this like fever pitch is really, I mean, from like 2016 till now, that you're starting to have the whiplash against it. And I think, like, it's a lot like turning a cruise ship. I mean, I turn my little Honda Civic, it instantly whips aside. I mean, you turn a cruise ship, I mean, you spin
Yeah.
the wheel,
Yeah.
and then the horizon starts shifting, and it's going slow. But hey, man, that thing's moving now. You can whip
Yeah.
it the other way. This fucker's moving. 1,000,000 tons are now moving. I think we're probably seeing that on an even large, as scaled up as the cruise ship to the Civic. I think we're seeing the nation to the cruise ship. You're seeing 350 million people, whatever large percentage of them, which we don't know because of shadow banning censorship. I think we're probably seeing this very slow moving thing that it doesn't whip around immediately, but we are seeing it slowly. I can see the little markers, right? It's like you have a bunch of buoys out at sea. And even if no one else is looking at it, you're like, dude, all the buoys are reading like 100-year highs. There's a tsunami coming. When I see friends and people and family members who would never do X, Y, or Z are now becoming conservative or going and moving out to the country, to me, there is this sort of, you can see it on the Richter scale if you really pay attention. I think it's
Hmm.
coming. And who knows? Maybe again, that's just my own optimism. I think it's I think it's coming. And I think the most interesting thing about this is it might already be here, but like the Panopticon, we can't see it. But
Hmm.
what's very interesting is all you'd have to do is press one button and all the cages open and everyone steps out of the Panopticon. You see everyone doing the thumbs up for lunch, and it seems like it happens overnight. The analogy with that, or the equivalent, is I think once the deal goes through with Elon and Twitter, it's going to seem like this thing that happened overnight, but really it's going to be the hot woman on the sideshow pulling down the curtain. You see the brand new car. I think the thing is boiling, and someone's about. I think that's all Elon's doing is just lifting the top off.
Hmm.
That's my optimism, is because once other people see it, everyone, you get emboldened. You don't need to be a psychopath like me yelling at a camera. You can actually have a bunch of people go, "Oh yeah, you know what? No, I did think the vaccines were fucked up. I don't want to do. I don't think it's right that some, I don't know, transsexual demon witch is like reading to our kids at like school out. Like, I think that is kind of fucked. Like, inflation is kind of bad. Like, hey, I was old enough to remember duck and cover drills. Maybe playing chicken with another nuclear power isn't the way to go. And then eventually, once all these lies start to come out, Hunter Biden's laptop, vaccine adverse reaction, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, it has to culminate with what do they call the big lie? And it's that your very election was taken. And I think that's sort of an event horizon. I don't know. Is that violent revolution? Is that just an uneventful another election and Trump wins and it's just meh? I have no idea. It's an event horizon.
Well, to me, I think the question is, can that happen within the context of the traditional American system,
Civil order,
civil order and law, and what we've seen in the last 5 years, particularly, is just a complete absence of consequences for anybody. Anybody in the progressive woke section of the country who's committed crimes, and it's deeply demoralizing, and more to the point, it's a tremendous insult to the country. It is just such a massive effrontery to have to just suck up this continual insult of institutional capture and bad behavior and lying and I think that we could see a kind of the obverse of the progressive woke mass formation will be the incredible fury of their opponents when the frog finally boils, or when the pressure is too much. I don't know about Elon liberating Twitter. I think there are an awful lot of forces arrayed against him who are going to do their darndest to prevent it.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you see his tweet this morning? If I die under mysterious circumstances, it's been nice knowing you.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just him being a meme lord or. Sorry, but
no, I think he's aware that that's how desperate these people are, and let's face it, it's really peculiar that a lot of people haven't been whacked over the last 5-10 years. It's kind of miraculous. I don't know how that. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to sound too nutty myself, but how do guys like Klaus Schwab and George Soros continue to just go about life? I mean, they're protected by armies? I don't think so. Not Klaus Schwab anyway.
I think they're probably protected by the people that control armies. So it's more of like a lack of pursuing, right? It's when a mob member seems to keep getting away with things. It's because they're a fucking FBI informant.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. Now, I don't know if that applies.
When I see someone like Christopher Wray going in front of Congress and just lying his ass off, it's very, very demoralizing, and it's very hard to understand why we're unable to do anything about it.
Again, maybe it's my own optimism. I've, in some sense, kind of been lucky in that I've always been, I don't know if it's stubborn, I don't know if it's been courageous, I don't know if it's just kind of like a mild retardation, but I've never really like cared from like middle school till now. Whatever it is, I've just kind of done what I wanted to. And I've kind of, I don't think that's right, or I don't think that's X, or I've just kind of, from getting made fun of, being in a fraternity in college and not being on board with the shit, or being in 7th grade and just being like, nah, I don't want to do that. So, but I think there's a lot of people who cave under societal pressure. And if you can control the idea of what a societal norm is, you can really control an incredible number of people, especially when it comes to something everyone's getting a vaccine. Oh, you think the 2020 election was stolen? You believe Orange Man? I think there are so many people. And again, I'm lucky. I'm 31. I don't have any debts. I don't have any kids. I don't have any pets. It's just me. I'm my own boss doing my own podcast. I mean, I am more free than I should. Like something's wrong. But like, it's actually one of my
Why don't
favorite
you
quotes.
adopt a few Ukrainian orphans?
I know, right? Well, one of my favorite quotes is "Become so free that your very existence is what was it called? Is an act of rebellion." And I love that
Mhm.
this is my life. I also have to sort of understand that there are a lot of people that have to walk a certain line to maintain their job or to, not cause dysfunction at dinner with the in-laws or whatever. I think there are so many people that just below the surface are so fed up with everything that it's really not going to take a whole lot to unveil it. And the biggest thing you can do is not some galvanizing moment, not some Lexington and Concord thing. I think it's going to be much simpler. It's going to be the realization that your crazy radical thoughts the only time you ever voice them is under an anonymous account on Reddit and not at your job, is the realization that if there can, even momentarily, if Twitter could be free for even a month before they take it down and kill Elon, if those people can just be emboldened in a single moment to just see everyone and go, oh wait, dude, literally everyone at my office watched 2000 Mules, but no one said it. Or everyone thinks this vaccine's horse shit. Or everyone's like, doesn't it kind of seem like the World Economic Forum's just sabotaging our food supply? The shit that nobody wants to say because, oh, you're that guy. You think the moon's made of cheese? Who knows? Maybe this is my own delusion. Maybe the
Well,
mass
I've had
fall.
kind of a rough day. I'm nothing terrible happened to me, but I've had a lot of obligations today, shall we say?
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of talking, and I sound, I suppose, a bit demoralized.
No,
But
you're
I
not.
want to make the point that, I personally think that the one way to battle all of this is with ridicule and comedy. I don't sound that funny today. I did write a blog that was kind of funny this morning. My blog comes out on Mondays and Fridays, and today's was okay. It's pretty funny, and I think it's important to ridicule what's going on because it's one of the few weapons that we really have. So I put a great deal of stock in that, and if I think there's anything redeeming out there, it's the ability to make fun of these people.
I don't think you sound demoralized at all. Maybe I'm demoralized. I think you sound fine. I notice you're sitting in your chair. I think the last two times you were standing. Maybe that's
Oh
the only
yeah, I think I
difference.
was.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's the only
Yeah,
difference.
I went for a long walk in the middle of the day out
Okay.
in the world of nature.
The great
I
outdoors.
walked up a country road. It was all right, but I was with a companion who's a kind of an annoying fellow, and
Well,
sometimes that is just the way we roll.
I got you. Well, I was gonna say, well, we can wrap this one up at like 5 or something on the nose. I'll let you go. But I was gonna say, so we'll do like 5 more minutes. Um,
Huh?
one thing I was thinking is I interviewed, I think like earlier this year, Roseanne Barr, and
Oh boy,
she had
she's
a
a live wire, huh?
yeah, it was fucking hilarious. She lives in Hawaii. Before we start recording, she was like, hold on, let me get in my like interview spot. And she went and she brought her laptop and went and got in bed with a hamburger and she packed a bowl. She was like, all right, let's do this.
How's
And
she
she was
doing, by the way? I missed that. How's she doing?
I thought she was fucking great. She was
Yeah.
like, hey, she's like, I'm gonna smoke this and eat this hamburger. And when I get tired, I'm just gonna end the podcast. And I was like, sure thing. We were like 30 minutes in, and she was like halfway through a sentence, she was like, anyway, Tommy, it was nice, but I'm going to bed. And I was like,
Uh,
that's my life goal, is to just halfway through an interview be like, hey, I'm in Hawaii with the doors open, listening to the ocean. Fuck off, I'm going to bed. But
yeah.
she did have a great point. And she said that comedy really is a very superior weapon in that you can censor things, you can do X, Y, and you can make it politically incorrect. Now, I was at the doctor. I had to go to a doctor's appointment today, and they took my blood pressure. And I was like, is that good?" She was like, "Well," and I was like, "Is it bad?" She goes, "No, no, no. We're just not supposed to say if it's good or bad." And I was like, "What? Just tell me if it's good." She was like, "It's very good." And I was like, "Thank you." And she was like, "People are sensitive." And I was like, "Jesus Christ." So, but that being said, is you can nerf everything. But
Yeah, really.
Roseanne had a great
And the
point.
medical establishment especially. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
just to get a straight answer out of them, or to just get something accomplished in that system is it's got to be a miracle.
I mean, when I said, is it good or is it bad? You'd think I just said, hey, can you give me the FBI statistics on black crime? Like, right? But that's like, she looked at me, she was like, and for a second, I thought she was going to be like, actually, it's terrible. We're bringing you to the ER.
Did you
But
say that?
no.
Oh,
No.
okay.
She looked at me and she goes, well, we're not supposed to. I was like, is it? And she goes, it's very good. And I was like, thank you. That's all I. But the point is so you can nerf everything. You can boil the frog slow enough to.
Uh-huh.
I mean, now it's bad to assume someone's gender, right? I mean, just imagine that another 20 years from the road. You did not look him in the eyes when you injured. Roseanne had a great point. Humor is, you can't really nerf it because true laughter is involuntary, right? You can sit here and go, Tommy, I've had a long day. I'm being, I'm being demoralized. Maybe you're not being funny. But if someone comes up to you and kind of gooses you in the side, hey, you do a little laugh. Or if someone says something and you really just laugh involuntarily, said FBI crime statistics and you started laughing, laughter is involuntary. And because of that, it is like the sword that no armor can. You can go to the head of the disinformation program. If you make a really funny racist joke, but it's funny, you can't help but you're like, I can't laugh at that. We're at dinner. Somebody just made an abortion joke. You still can't help but, it's inappropriate. You try not to laugh, right? But I mean, again, at the doctor's today, she was trying to be she was like, take a deep breath, do that whole thing. And then she brings it to the front. She goes, breathe normally. And I was like, and she goes, normally. And I was like, I don't know how to breathe normally. And she was like, and I was like, it's when you're like driving, you're doing the speed limit, you're in your lane, you're completely sober, there's no contraband in your car, but you see a cop behind you. All of a sudden, you're like, am I going the speed limit? And you can't. And I said that, and she started laughing. And you could tell she was trying to be the medical professional, but humor is involuntary. And to me,
Well,
that is the weapon you can always have.
Another thing about it is that it's really totally about what makes people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so we're living in an age where everybody's being made uncomfortable one way or another.
Yeah.
And so you got to use that as for what it offers up.
But I think in agreement with you, that is the value of humor. Is you can censor everything. You make a good joke about like a stolen election or vaccine side effects.
Yeah.
People, even Fauci, I'm sure if you made a good enough joke against Fauci, part of his lips would curl. He would try not to laugh. Like you could. You talk to like the director of the CIA or something about the election being stolen and you frame it in a perfect way. I mean, he's going to be biting his tongue. And that is a great part, is it's sort of like a lie detector.
The thing about all this censorship in the last few years is that, it's become against the law to supposedly make people uncomfortable by anything you do or say. But of course, if people are not allowed to be uncomfortable, then there really truly is no room for humor or comedy.
Which is even better because what it does is it's like if you live in a perfect bubble, it's like if you lived in an ICU your whole life, right? You have no immune system. So in the attempt to make you healthier, they are actually momentarily making you healthier. But if they throw you out into the park, I mean, you go for your walk today, you're gonna die of like strep throat, right? Something that the rest of us would brush off.
You're right.
So as you remove the ability to make humor, all you're really doing is you're making people have no tolerance. It's all of a sudden you haven't had a single beer in 30 years, and then you have two and you're shit faced. That's all they're doing. So again, like the cruise ship, we're seeing it on a very long, slow level. But because there's no room for humor, you're not allowed to be uncomfortable. They're really just making themselves more vulnerable.
Well, I must say it was very refreshing last week to see how Dave Chappelle dealt with that guy who bum rushed him on stage.
His guards beat the shit out of him.
And and then Dave came out about 5 minutes later, or however long it was, and he said, I've been in this business for 30 years and I've been waiting to beat the shit out of some nigga backstage for 30 years and I finally got to do it.
Yeah. And then Chris Rock pokes his head out and goes, was that Will Smith? So that is sort of a weapon. I think the humor will always be there. And I am optimistic. I do think it'll all work out.
Well, let me ask you this though.
Sure.
Could we find a figure more ridiculous than Nina Jankowicz?
No.
I mean, it really isn't possible to find a more absurd person to run a ministry of truth than this
Disinformation.
musical
Yeah.
comedy star,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who's singing about censoring people.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you can't make that shit up in some kind of a, dark Soviet underground samizdat,
And what's hilarious is you can almost see them overplaying their hand more and
What do
more.
they think about it?
But
I mean,
listen,
what do those people in the Biden regime think about this moron that they've enlisted to run this?
I think they've all drank the Kool-Aid. I think they're all true believers, and it's making them seem more absurd. Because it's not like she comes out and she's like, okay, disinformation about because I mean, let's play devil's advocate. There are cyber attacks. We know we're constantly doing it in Russia and China. They're probably fucking with us. Absolutely, sure. There probably is. There's a lot of disinformation on Ukraine and Russia's side in the war. Okay. But the first things she's come out with, I think her first video was we need to dispel the notion that there's a deep state. It's like,
yeah, right.
The deep state ministry of truth. The next video was who's vice president? Let's just it's just a coincidence. She goes, we need to dispel the myth that Kamala Harris slept her way to the top. This is her saying this.
Yeah.
These are the big things coming out. The ministry, they'd be like if this was under Trump, instead of like them, it'd be like if he created a ministry of truth, and if instead of them coming out and saying the Russian collusion dossier is all a hoax, it'd be like if he came out and said like Donald Trump's tan is actually real and his hair looks very great. Like, it'd be comical. It's so bad, right? It'd be like if George Bush came out and was like, Dick Cheney's not actually running the show, and I didn't do 9/11. You'd be like, what? Yeah, I thought you'd maybe try to cover up the CIA torture program, right? LBJ would be like, I had nothing to do with JFK getting his dome cleared off. It's so comical that's where my optimism comes from. Is like, dude, they're covering this shit. I think it's a matter of time before it comes down. I really do. I think the truth really is like a glacier. It'll grind mountains to dust.
Well, usually these flip-flops or paradigm shifts come from strangely unexpected places.
Yeah.
I must say, though, I do expect the flip-flop to somehow come about when a large number of people learn that they have taken vaccines that are going to harm them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the fulcrum that this thing rests on right now. And, there's just so much evidence out there that just can't be suppressed, that is the story. At least that's the way it seems to me.
I think that's probably the most accurate take is, right, you learn about like a torture program. That's bad. And then, you go.
Then you learn that you learn you were the one who was being tortured.
Well, that's what I mean. You learn about a torture program, but then you go microwave dinner, right? You learn about how they're laundering money and giving it to Ukraine. You're like, and then you turn on Netflix. When it turns out that like you are fucked. Kill you. You are fucked. Your heart is now, its capacity is diminished. Your immune system is now screwed. You might have a blood clot at 25.
Do you know any people who have been injured by the vaccine?
I interviewed a woman. She was like 5 years older than me, like a triathlete. Now she can't. I think she's like 35. Now I
think I heard that.
She can't walk around her house without a walker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Insane. Yeah. That is what I think you're going to get, because it's either going to be you yourself are injured or someone that you deeply love, your partner, your child, your parent. I think that's probably going to be the tipping point. All the other stuff is sort of periphery. Inflation, and then, whatever. Or go take a shower. Your own personal health, that's different, right? Somebody, sticks and stones can break my bones. You can say anything you want. Somebody like broke my finger or something, or broke my nose, and you're sitting at home that night and you're all swelled up. You're like, dude, I can't fall asleep because you're on the pillow. Yeah, that's what sits with you, is your own, the temple that is your own, like the sovereign state, really the only thing you have, your body.
Mm-hmm.
When they have, in more than one way, metaphorically raped it. Yeah.
You must be familiar with the Deagle prediction that came out, some years ago.
Yeah,
I think
actually you told me about that.
uh,
The US population by whatever 2020 or 2024.
2025
Yeah,
was going to
2025.
be, 99, 100 million.
Yeah,
Whereas it's now 330 odd million.
that's a 67% drop.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. And the figures were similar and actually a little bit worse for several European countries, percentage wise, the number of people who are going to still be around in 2025. But that begins to look like really like something that you can't help but take seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where the hell they came from with that. And they never did an adequate job of explaining it. Deagle, by the way, for those who don't know, is basically a military analysis website. It's
Yeah,
pretty
they're like an
dry stuff generally.
they're like an Intel
But they
contract.
came out with this page of, predicted GDPs and predicted populations of all the countries in 2025. Oddly, some countries, I think Russia, and quite a few other countries had no appreciable population loss, or nothing comparable to what they were predicting for the USA and for Germany and Great Britain. Their prediction for Great Britain, I think, was that something like 20% of the present population would be left. It's really frightening and amazing kind of, I'm not really that into sci-fi, but they were serious people.
Yeah,
The people at Deagle, they're not comedians.
it's not Tommy's podcast. This is like a
Tommy's
defense. This is
podcast.
a defense intel contractor.
Yeah. Well, I'm just putting it out there. It's been an interesting thing lurking in the background for a few years. Deagle took that page down 2 years ago, but you can still find it in weird little corners of, or replicas of it in the. It was a chart. It was a one-page chart. You can find it in weird corners of the internet, and try it. Dagle, I believe.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those weird things where it's like that paper in 2000, the Project for a New American Century, PNAC. Absent a
Yeah.
new Pearl Harbor, America won't like maintain its standing in the world.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just one of those things you're like, huh, that's odd. It is a what was that military
And I'm
training?
still not a 9/11 truther,
Neither am I, but I mean, I don't know. Let's just what was that military training exercise they were running? What was it, Vigilant Guardian, where they were
yeah,
testing what would
I don't
happen?
remember. There's been so many of them.
Yeah, that one that was called Vigilant Guardian. What was it about? Oh, it's just civilian airliners were hijacked. What would it be like? What day were they running that exercise again? I think it was Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
Hmm.
Huh. That is a coincidence.
Were they running a simulation like that on September
Yes.
11th? Really?
Yes.
Who's
Which one?
they, by the way?
NORAD, needs NEADS North.
They were running that shit while this shit was going on?
Yeah, full devil's advocate. It's under the umbrella of Global Guardian, which were tests that they run around the fall every year. At that, I think they've been doing
So
it
it's
since
routine.
1980. It was routine, sure, which could then lead into, well, if you're a terrorist, why wouldn't you run it on that day?
Yeah, would anybody
Regardless,
know? I mean,
would anybody know? Yeah, right.
was it known that they were going to
Well, yeah, that's why all like the transcripts in NORAD are all them saying, is this real world or exercise?
Oh, see, I never saw that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I don't
curious.
know. This New American Century, that
Yeah.
I don't know, Deagle, 20%.
Well, look at Tommy. I've got to go.
Yeah.
I got to go feed the chickens. I just want to leave this with you. I think that what we're seeing probably is going to be a convergence of these various things that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it will get people's attention and maybe break the spell of the mass formation.
Which my most downloaded episode of all time is with Dr. Matthias Desmet, Mass Formation Psychosis.
I'm interviewing him next week.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And his publisher is Chelsea Green.
Yeah, he has his
right over in Vermont, not far from me.
Oh, really?
I think they're up in Middlebury, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not in Vermont. I'm in upstate New York, but I'm about 10 miles from the Vermont border. And anyway, they hooked me up with them, and they're going to put me on a call with him, and I'm really excited. I'm reading the book. I just want to say this about Desmet's book, which is, it's not called Mass Formation. It's called The Psychology of Totalitarianism.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful writer,
Really?
just as a writer.
I
Yeah,
I had him
he's
on
a
like 2
he's a
weeks
brilliant,
ago.
brilliant prose artist. He
Yeah.
writes beautifully, concisely, in shapely sentences and paragraphs. And I couldn't admire that book more. It's coming out in June.
His accent is mesmerizing. If you ever
Well,
listen to his
he's a
interviews,
foreign gentleman.
it's that is the thing about that. You're like, tell me more. Like, cigarette. You're like, tell me more about this mass from Desmet, Matthias Desmet.
Matthias. Is it
Yeah,
is it Matthias?
I think it's
I'm gonna have to
Matthias.
check.
Dr. Malone says Matthias. I was gonna say one more thing, just food for thought. Another quinky dink is the Brookings Institute, contracted by NASA after JFK announced the plan to go to the moon by the end of this decade, was just the Brookings Institute, kind of like Deagle, pretty serious group of guys. They were contracted with hey, when we go up there by the end of this decade, what would we do if we found remnants of another civilization, current or past?
Interesting question.
And it was you wouldn't tell anyone because it would upset the world order. Just a
Oh,
little contract they threw out there during the Cold War. Surely
yeah.
was for fun.
Yeah. Well, I imagine they saw a few above the ground pools up there, and discarded tricycles.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck would you do if you went up there and you just saw some? I mean,
Where did the Egyptians put their discarded shit when they were done with it?
I don't fucking know.
Couldn't they sort of put them on top of the pyramids and just fire them up to the moon?
I don't know. All I know is I am optimistic. I think it will work out. But you got to feed your chickens.
Let's get the rascals out.
Yeah,
let's boot those rascals out.
I think we're gonna win. We got through the Cuban Missile Crisis. We got through World War II. I think we're fine. I really do. I'll send you this episode when it's up. I'll put all the links to all your good stuff in the description. I look forward to seeing that interview you do with Desmet. And until next time.
Okay, dog. It's been a pleasure as always talking to you.
Thank you so much, Herr Kunstler.
Okay, dog. Herr Dog.
Dog. Übergruppen für Kunstler and his brother.
Uber Schweinhund.
Schlettenheit. Sieg. Yeah, so that's good.
Don't start.
Doesn't matter, man. I'm already banned from YouTube. They can't, there's no, you can't, I don't know, you can't ban me anymore.
They can't do any more to you.
Yeah. So Übergruppen für Kunstler will
we will ride again.
We will ride we will Reich again. And
okay.
all right, man.